Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, we're having such an awesome conversation on leadership, on women in leadership, on how to lead a movement. So I have brought on Nicole Lamoureux. She's the CEO with the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. It's 1,400 member organizations. It's partners like CVS. She is, she's just a powerhouse, like a powerhouse of a woman. And I loved our conversation. So we're going to dive in. If you love the show, make sure to share it with a friend and go leave a review on iTunes. Take a screenshot of your review, email it to us, clientcare@rachelngom.com, and we will send you a little gift as a thank you. Let's dive in. Hey, Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to dive in. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. I'm Nicole Lamoureux. I'm the president and CEO of the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. And we have 1,400 free and charitable clinics across the United States of America with a workforce of volunteers and staff of over 200,000 people. And we serve 2 million people annually, providing access to free healthcare for those who do not have insurance.
Wow. How'd you get into that?
Well, I was 33 years old and I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, inflammatory breast cancer. I'm almost 50 now. And I wondered how people that don't have insurance took care of themselves. I had fantastic insurance prior to my job as starting this organization. I did a great job of making rich people richer. I was excellent at it. And I woke up one day and said, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this anymore. That same day I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
Had a fantastic health insurance plan, still had to cash out my entire 401k to pay for my treatment. And so I started thinking about, what do we do for those people, the substitute teachers, the gig workers, everyone out there that don't have access to employer-sponsored healthcare and might make a little bit too much for a government-sponsored program. And so from there, I started doing some research about clinics across the United States. If there were any, how they existed. There were 75 at the time. This was in 2007. And this organization had $75,000 to its name. They hired me to kind of do a revamp. And so now we have over 1,400 clinics. We're going to close about $8 million of profit and revenue for us. So we've grown a great deal in that amount of time.
Okay. What would you say are some of like the key things that you have done that have helped you grow that much in that amount of time?
Sure. First things first, I was just willing to be authentic. I think that's the first thing that helped me grow this organization, is that I didn't shy away from telling my story. I wasn't embarrassed about the fact that there was a need and that these clinics could solve that need. So first thing, I identified a problem.
Yeah.
And then I found people to help me address the problem. Second, I was really authentic about talking about the stories. I went in and talked to the patients, got to know what their needs were, understood why doctors wanted to volunteer their time across the United States, and really was able to build something that people wanted to be a part of. Because I truly believe that at the end of the day, people want to give back. They want to make this world a better place in whatever job that they do. And so finding a solution for people to give back, give of their time, and also to make a difference was something we were able to do. So we identified a problem, used authenticity, and answered the problem with some sort of solution. Now, granted, it's a unique solution because I'm in the nonprofit sector. And so that makes it very different. But being a nonprofit executive is no different than anyone running a startup. I have to know so the other things I did was I took the training. I got coaches. I learned how to run a business, and I learned how to scale when it was appropriate. Sometimes you've got to crawl, walk, then run, even though we all want to run first.
So how did you know at what point to crawl, walk, run, all of those things?
Well, the first thing I had to do was crawling, and that meant my mom was helping me stuff folders on the floor of my apartment, which I think is very similar to any entrepreneur that's starting. There's no difference from there. I think for all entrepreneurs, I think we can all agree that there comes this feeling inside of us when we take a look at the landscape. I started to recognize that We were outgrowing our current business model, which was just being reactive. And it was time now for us to be proactive. What that meant for me was really taking a look at our finances and taking a look at what needed to be scaled. So the first thing I had to do was recognize that I couldn't be a one-person show any longer. And I learned how to either do, drop, or delegate. And those were the three ways of doing it. I'm a big fan of straight line coaching. And, the easiest way to point A to point is to go straight to point B. That was hard as an entrepreneur to learn how to, I couldn't do everything. So some things just had to drop. And I had to either put them in future planning or I had to start to delegate. So the first thing I had to do when I realized that I was at that place, there is too much for me, I had to hire a team. And I had to start slowly, and it started very slowly, one person at a time. And even now, we're only a team of 4 at our national organization, because we work a great deal with. We recognize that sometimes we don't need to bring everyone in house. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are experts that you can hire for a time, a project, a program, and sometimes those you can just start learning how to incorporate. And once we learned how to, we either could incorporate them into our daily work, or that's when we had to hire people for us to have full-time employment with us.
Who are the 4 positions?
So our main 4 positions is we have someone, we work on a membership base. So we have someone who runs our entire membership and education component for us. We have someone who works on strategic initiatives for us. So they identify those partnerships of what we should be doing. We have someone who does marketing and PR for us. And then there's me. I'm the spokesperson, the person who talks, but I also work with Congress a great deal on the issues that we have. And then outsourcing, we have an accounting team. We have someone who helps us lobby. And then we have an event planning team that helps us organize our training and education events outside of the work every day that we do.
How do you get noticed by, Congress? Like, how do you get in front of Congress? How does that work?
I talk a lot. My dad said, find something you're good at and then find someone to pay you for it. And I'm only good at talking. I'd wish I was good at something else. So that is where we found we needed an expert. So I knew we had a story. I knew we had the data points. I knew that we had the compelling answer to the uninsured problem in the country for either companies to partner with us or Congress. But I also understood that I didn't have those connections. Mm-hmm. So how we did that was an outsourced position. We went and we found one of DC's top lobbyists. We negotiated a deal that worked for both of us. And then they set up meetings for me and coached me on how to do those meetings before Congress. And sometimes it's just luck. I will also say, I hate to admit that. I think every entrepreneur hates to admit that, but we get it, right? Sometimes it's you are at the right place at the right time as well. The first $1 million we made was because a TV person had heard me give a speech and just went on TV and said, you need to support the work of the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. We raised $1 million in 24 hours from that one plug. Wow. And the joke I said was my husband, who started as a volunteer for me at my organization, was building our website. And we were out and I said, our website's broken. It says people are giving us money, but we know no one's giving us money. And from there, we learned what we needed to do with PR to always be on top of things, make sure our operations and our systems are up. So our website didn't crash. It was only luck there that our website didn't crash on that day. Now looking back 5 years later, boy, I didn't know a lot, but I didn't let it stop me. I learned that I had to keep learning and growing and keep going and not be afraid to ask for help.
I love what you just said. I didn't know a lot, but I didn't let it stop me. Right. I think a lot of times people stop themselves because they don't know what the next step or the next level is going to look like. And so they pull back instead of saying, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. So Absolutely. When you got the $1 million, what did you have a plan for what you're going to do with that money? Or was it like, okay, now we get to figure it out?
Sure. No. So we did have a plan. At the time, we were turning convention centers into the world's largest doctor's office. So we would go into cities. Mostly we focused in New Orleans after Katrina. And then we grew after Katrina because, again, finding a problem and finding a solution. For a long time after Katrina, there was no hospital in New Orleans proper.
Wow.
And so people didn't have a place to go. We had clinics, we had doctors, we were ready to see them. So we knew that we were going to spend some money on building up the infrastructure of our clinics in New Orleans. So we knew a chunk of that money, about $500,000, was going to go to that program. We knew we needed $100,000 to hire my vice president in order to come in with me, because I didn't have anybody with me at that time. And then we knew the rest of it needed to shore up our operations. So again, I think, like you said, I didn't let it stop me, but I always know what we're lacking and what we need to get for the next step for us to scale. So I had a basic outline. I didn't quite know how we were going to spend the money exactly, but I knew where it was going to go.
Got it. What would you say to someone who wants to go from like 500,000 to $1 million, and then from $1 million to 5 to 8 million? What do you think are the things that they would need?
I think first off, you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to do that is start for where you would like to be and work backwards, as opposed to starting from where you are and dreaming big. So if you're, let's just start, if you're at 100,000 and you want to get to 500,000, take down a piece of paper, say $500,000. What, and then work backwards. What do you need to do to get there? So do you need to have a stronger website? Do you need to have a stronger advertising game? Do you need to hire someone? Do you need to get a coach? Do you need to set aside some time for learning? I think we also don't do that as entrepreneurs very well. I think that, when I start reading books and I hear that CEOs of major brands set aside 2 hours a day to read and to learn, I think, wow, I'm lucky if I set aside 30 minutes to go to the restroom. And so I recognize that I have to change my mindset. And then I said it before, but also the thing I would do is please write out your do, drop, and delegate. What are the things you absolutely have to do, and commit to that? Instead of making a things to do list of 50 things and then adding 2 more things so you could cross it off, because I do that. We all do.
Yeah.
I've started looking at, from one of the things my coaches have taught me, is write down 4 things you're committed to doing that day, that you are going to do. And then you have to drop. And then if you have a bunch of things that you have to delegate, you're going to have to invest. Instead of looking at price, look at an investment. Because if you look at a cost, we all can't afford anything we want. But if you look at investment to get you to your next step, it helps you when you grow. So those are the things I would do. Start at B, work back to A. I would do, drop, and delegate, make sure I learn that out. And then I would commit to a minimum of 4 things a day to get me to that goal. But I wouldn't make myself overwhelmed with the things to do list that I just keep adding for the next day and the next day and the next day. Yeah. And I'd shut my email off. I shut my email off 2 hours every day. I don't answer. If you have to put an out of office on, do it. Again, if you can delegate it to someone else, but busyness isn't productivity. They're 2 very different things. You're just very busy, and that's not getting you to your next point.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the leadership qualities that you have that have helped you grow and scale to your level?
I don't take myself too seriously, but I know I'm very smart. I think so you have to have confidence, but you can't be cocky. And I think that those are 2 very different things. Again, as a woman, remove those words that aren't strong words from your vocabulary. No, I would like to follow up. Don't say those things. Come in, your value, who you are, you're bringing something to the table. So I feel I don't take myself very seriously. We all make mistakes. The other day I sent out an email to 1,500 people and I spelled my own last name wrong. You know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It didn't make a difference. You know who noticed? Absolutely no one but myself. And if somebody did, I would have said, well, my fingers were working faster than my brain that day, but did you read the message, the rest of the message I wanted to get to you? Yeah. Make sure you come from your stance of power, but also be willing to be humble. I think that I like to talk. I like to connect with people. And I think that makes a big difference. I think that, and if you're not that person, it's okay. Hire somebody who is. Yeah, it's fine for you. And if you can't hire someone, there's always someone that's willing to help, gig workers, or someone who's willing to work with you a little bit. So I think I'm authentic. I don't take myself too seriously, but I know I'm very smart. I know that we are solving a problem and that I can go in and solve that problem. And when I walk into that room, I have at least 3 solutions to something that someone's bringing up with me. So you never quite know. And do your homework. If you're going to have a meeting with someone, don't go in cold. Just do a little bit of homework. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can do a Google search. You can read about their company page. If you can be the expert on what they need, they're going to want to work with you a bit more.
Yeah. What do you think? If you think there's any difference between women in leadership and men in leadership, and how men run companies, and then how can, because this is a conversation I was having with one of my clients of like, she wanted to have a tough conversation with a team member. And as women, a lot of times we are maybe overly empathetic or emotional.
Absolutely.
And so I basically said, I'm like, how would Elon Musk handle this?
Exactly.
And I made her like think about it from that perspective. So do you have any like thoughts on the difference between men and women in leadership and how we can kind of rise up as women in leadership positions?
Absolutely. I think first off, know your worth. And I think that men know their worth. And if they don't know their worth, they think they know their worth, and they pretend they know their worth. I mean, I sit in meetings all of the time with gentlemen, and they say things because I'm in healthcare, and sometimes they say things and I'm like, that is completely wrong. For example, I went into a meeting with a Capitol Hill staffer, and a very smart young man, he ran in, he told me he solved the problem for healthcare in our country. And I said, great, what is it? And he said, everyone just has to pay $500 out of their paycheck and insurance will be solved. And everyone else around the room is nodding their head. And so finally I said, okay, well, I hear you. However, not everyone has $500. Not everyone's employer offers insurance. And sometimes, but everyone else in the room, if I didn't say something, was going to be like, that was a brilliant idea. Change approved. Let's go. Mm-hmm. So first off, hold yourself as if you know who you are in a meeting, or as a leader. Make sure that your body language means a great deal. You can lean into a conversation if you want to, but don't slouch. Don't hold yourself in a position of where you're going to just hang out like you're not caring that you're there. Second, just recognize the fact that, in my industry, I know men get paid 23% more than I do, doing the exact same job at the same exact position, same exact location, everything. However, I also recognize that as a woman, I can bring something to the table because I can be a bit more empathetic. Mm-hmm. So I do look every single person in an eye when I shake their hands. I remember someone's name of their dog or their cat. Those little things make a very big difference. And if you look at most men, if you look at Barack Obama, when he shook somebody's hand, or you even look at former President Trump, they knew something about the person they were talking to. Yep. Know something about the person that you're talking to. And three, at some point in time, just remember, it's your business. Mm-hmm. This is your business. This is your name. And if you have a tough conversation with a staff member, first off, there's a difference between being nice and kind. And being nice is being overly sympathetic and letting people maybe sometimes get away with too much. Being kind is saying to someone, listen, I know you're having a hard time. Let's work on it together. However, we can't go down this path any longer. You're not succeeding and the business isn't succeeding. Or when interns come into my office and they want to talk to me, being nice is saying, oh, you look great and you have a great Instagram page. Being kind is saying, doing that beer bong on your Instagram was not going to help you in your future development. As you look at that, you may want to scrub your pages as you grow. That's being kind. And as a woman, I think we have a unique opportunity to help other women grow. And sometimes we're so worried about people's feelings that we forget to help them grow. And so I'm not afraid of having hard conversations when I need to. Now, I will admit it took me a long time to get there. Yeah. I have a tendency to be a people pleaser. But then I recognized that that's great that I was pleasing everyone else, but I wasn't pleasing myself when I got home. And people were looking at me to run the business, and people were looking at me to tell them what to do. And so I had to really work on that for myself. And I think everyone
do to work on it.
Well, I started therapy. I did. I not only got a business coach, but I started therapy, and I addressed the things that I knew were holding me back. I also started doing gratitude every single morning. I wrote down 3 things every morning that I'm grateful for, and 3 things every single night before I go to bed that I'm grateful for. And then I started to take a hard look at, if I want to scale this business, if I don't trust myself, why would anyone else trust me? And
that's good.
and that one question that I started asking myself is, why would someone trust you with this, Nicole? Switched my whole mindset in a day. Because when you start to realize that if you trust yourself and you know that you're going, and you trust yourself even when you're going to make a mistake, because we're all going to make mistakes, people are going to come to you. And that was a big thing for me, is to stop being the person that made being nice to everyone and started being kind.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard. And I appreciate when people are kind to me and say, Nicole, I think that was a really great idea, but we probably should have done X, Y, and Z. You can always learn about it. You can always change.
That's how we get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
1% better every day.
Yeah. How do you lead a movement? So like you're leading all these people and get them on the same page. What does that look like?
Actually, I think that it's easier than I thought it would be and tougher at the same time. So easier in the fact that we have people from all religions, all races, all genders, non-gender, and all parties that want to help make their communities better. So the easier way for me was to find the constant theme, which is we're building healthier communities. And everyone wants to live in a healthy community. We all want to grow up in a community where our children feel safe and they're secure, or our parents or our loved ones. And so finding that common thread made it very easy. Where it gets difficult to lead a movement is that at times as a leader, you need to make sure it doesn't become about you the entire time. It becomes about what we're doing, the service that we're providing, the commitment that we're giving to people. And I think we can see that as we look at presidents or former CEOs of social media networks. It becomes about them. And then all of a sudden you lose the focus on the operations or the what needs to happen. And then I think finally, the biggest thing is communication. You have to be not only a good communicator, but also a good listener. And sometimes it's hard to be a good listener because we always want to say the next thing that's in our brain.
Yep. What would you say is like one of the biggest challenges that you faced as growing as a leader, and how'd you overcome it?
I think my biggest challenge was going on television for me, not the public speaking aspect of it. I told you I like to talk and that's all I do. I wasn't prepared for, which is odd growing up as a woman. So it's going to sound odd when I say this. I wasn't prepared for how many people looked at me and judged me on how I looked when I would talk, that it wasn't the words coming out of my mouth. Now, again, I grew up a girl my whole life. I grew up someone that was teased and made fun of, as many of us are. But for some reason, it hit me hard when people would say, you're too fat. Or one time I had one person tell me I had too much plastic surgery, and then somebody telling me I needed plastic surgery. That was the day I realized I did a good job, because I made both people mad at the same time. So recognizing, and I do believe as a woman, we go through this. And I do believe also for people who are non-binary, they go through this as well. You're judged on your outward appearance, even though we tell people don't judge a book by its cover. That was the hardest thing for me. I also think that most recently, the hardest thing for me as a leader was our organization came out very strong on the murder of George Floyd and the insurrection that happened at the Capitol, because I'm up there all of the time and I know the people that are working there. And I started to receive death threats at my organization. And that was a growth as a leader to also recognize what systems do I have in place to protect my team? What operations do I have to make sure that we have all of the policies in place in case someone comes that shouldn't be at our office? Or what insurance policies do I have? All of these new growth mindsets that I really didn't think about, but as a good leader should be part of our daily routine.
Yeah. Ooh, the death threats.
That was a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
It's a lot. It was recognizing that, and I think that's it, is that at any point in time as a leader, you have to really ensure that you're ready to handle the weight that goes on your shoulders, whether that's making payroll, taking care of a staff, delivering a product at the same time, doing what I do and leading a movement. There are those, I do that too once a month. I check in with myself and I ask myself those questions. Do you still want to do this? Are you as committed as you were in the beginning? If you're not as committed, why not? Can we fix this? And is it time to go? And I ask those questions of myself every month. And I think that having that check-in with yourself helps a great deal too.
Has the answer ever been, it's time to go?
It's never been, it's time to go. Not yet. Not yet. It has been, do you still want to do this? There has a lot of times been, no, I don't want to do this any longer. So that goes back to your question you asked me before of how did you know when it was time to change or scale? Every time I answered no to that one, that was something inside of me telling me we're going in a different direction. We have to go in a different direction.
Yeah. What's one of the best books you've read?
A Straight Line Leadership. Absolutely.
Do you know who the author is?
I don't, and I just finished it, so I feel very, very awful about saying that. But Straight Line Leadership would be
we
the one.
can Google. It's fine.
That book, I've now read it 2 times in 2 months, and it's brand new, and it's changed not the book's old, it's brand new to me, excuse me, but it's changed everything that I thought about. And then the E-Myth would be another book that I read too, and Essentialism. Those are my 3.
Essentialism and E-Myth.
Yes.
I had a mentor just mention E-Myth, and it's on my table of it's in the queue to read.
It's very good.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
Everything. I was taught to make this world a little bit better than how I found it. And I think that being able to see a goal and reach it is something that we all can agree makes a big difference. But I think when you can help a person in whatever way we all do it, all of a sudden your job becomes worth a little bit more. And that again can be whether we're helping people connect to healthcare, or we're getting someone a product that they always thought that they needed, or we're teaching them something that they didn't realize before and the aha moment goes on. We're all making an impact. And I think if we all keep working that way, it gives me gratitude and it fulfills my life's purpose.
Yeah. I love that. Where can we connect with you?
The easiest way to connect with me is on our website, nafcclinics.org.
Cool. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.